I ventured out this year. I left my job as the chief product officer at Dribbble to start a brand new company. And that company is gigantic. My goal is to help you master the new influential disciplines that are driving results within organizations, like product leadership taught by Ben Foster, the former CPO at Whoop. It's not just video courses. We're combining video lectures with take-home assignments and exercises, and then small group mentorship to really help level you up, and all at a cost that most companies' learning and development budget covers. So if you're interested, go to gigantic.is, that's gigantic.is, sign up for a course, and I'll walk you through everything that you need to know. And if you enroll and let me know that you heard about this on Rocketship, I've got a special discount for you.
Welcome to the Rocketship podcast. I'm Matt Goldman.
I'm Michael Saka.
And I'm Joelle Steiniger. Today we talked with Allan Branch, the founder of LessAccounting. And I loved talking to Allan. He had such a refreshing perspective on why he does what he does. What do you guys think about it?
I think he has a very honest approach. He talks about the things that a lot of people in the industry don't often talk about how hard it is to do a SaaS, how long it takes. He talks about the few companies that he's built up that he wasn't too pumped on running and what he's done to change that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big piece is I've tried the agency model and scaling it, and he talks about that. And I felt like I was going back in time listening to him. And when he talks about his family, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, but his success isn't measured on how much money they're bringing in the door. His success really was measured by, am I honoring my family? Am I a good father? And is this allowing me to do that? That part is something that is just so not talked about in this high growth, sell it for as much as you can, work under the table or sleep under the desk. I don't know, it was really refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get into the episode.
Before we get started, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Hover takes all the hassle and friction out of registering your next domain name. And if you don't believe me, just ask my wife, Carmen.
Hey, babe.
Yeah?
I need a new website.
All right, well, you need to get a domain name.
How do I do that?
Do you have a domain name?
Yes. No.
No.
I don't.
Okay.
I need one.
Just use my Hover account.
What's a Hover?
So Hover, HOVER, .com.
Okay.
And just search for whatever domain you want.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Go to hover.com, get 10% off your entire first purchase by using the code SOEASY. That's hover.com and the code SOEASY.
CodeShip makes continuous delivery simple and easy. For those of you just getting started, CodeShip has a generous free plan with 5 private projects included and 100 builds per month. Not enough? You get 20% off 3 months just for being a Rocketship listener. Plus, the team over at CodeShip spent the past few months talking to customers and just launched a complete redesign of their app with better usability. Go to codeship.com/rocketship to sign up today.
Customer.io is a modern email platform built for startups. Go to customer.io/rocketship to start sending emails that convert. So for those who aren't familiar, tell us a bit about LessAccounting and kind of the quick journey of how you got to where you are.
Yeah, LessAccounting is a bookkeeping tool for small business owners. I like to say it's like QuickBooks, but not quite as shitty. And so I just mean that we try to be a little more friendly in the way we speak to our customers, and the app, we just try to be a little more friendly within it, and then the UI and the visual cues and that sort of thing. LessAccounting was started by my business partner and I, Stephen Bristol. About 7 years ago, in 2007, we started working on it. We bootstrapped it. Our consultancy, we built web apps for people, and our consultancy kind of paid for the production of LessAccounting. And over the years, it grew, and now we're a product company. We've been a product company for a few years now.
How long before you dropped the consulting side of the business?
It was such a tiny part of the business for so long. I mean, it was probably in 2011 is when we started, or 10 even, was when we started tapering it down. And so it went from being, 100% of our revenue to 99 to 98. And so probably by 2011-ish, 2012-ish, it was probably a very small percentage. And then it kind of stayed that way up until probably beginning of 2012 even. We would do it. It's hard to turn down people and they will say, I'll give you $250 an hour or $200 an hour. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to say, okay, one more project.
Yeah.
So even today, like we call ourselves a product company, but the reality is if someone came to us and said, here's a whole bunch of money and it was a buddy of ours or something and it was a quick project, we would probably do it and stick the money into like pay-per-click ads or banner ads or some sort of paid marketing. We don't need the money, but it's just hard to turn down really good hourly rates. Even when you're a product company, it's hard to turn it down.
So what kind of projects were you working on the consulting side?
Yeah, they were like web apps. So most people were building businesses online. And so we would use LessAccounting as sort of like, we've been there. This is this is what makes us different than other product or people building web apps is we are building a web app. We've done that. So we can give you feedback on hiring support teams and what apps to use. Intercom was new. So we, do you use Intercom? Do you use something else? All those sorts of things that most people that are just building web apps don't know. Mm-hmm. So LessAccounting, even though that was kind of becoming our revenue model, was also helping us create this sort of consultancy too, because that's what helped us sell how we're special to people building web apps.
And you've actually been really open too about kind of the struggles and the long journey it took to get where you guys are today as like a sole product company that is profitable and doing well and bootstrapped. Can you talk a little bit about just kind of the idea that from the outside looking in, things always look so easy and you hear about these quote unquote overnight successes, but really when it comes down to it, it's somewhat dishonest to portray entrepreneurship like that and how much more work it really is to get there.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use dishonest is a very strong word because I don't think people mean to do it that way. Like, maybe they do. Maybe people are terrible, but maybe once I don't know. I always, when we first started in 2007, there was no such thing as lean startups, and so the only thing we really knew about was 37 Signals and Jason Fried and DHH, and they are handsome, large vocabularies. They're cool. They're super cool guys, right? Like I can just, the times I've talked to them in person, they're just nice and cool and have great opinions about everything. And I don't think they mean to be dishonest about how easy it was. I don't think people talk about it. And so they're so cool. It just seems like it's just easy for them, right? Mm-hmm. I'm big and fat and sweaty. I don't make things look very easy when I do them. I make lots of mistakes. And so whenever someone's like, tell me your latest secret, I'm like, well, I can only tell you what doesn't work because I'm making all those mistakes. So I don't think people maybe they do. Maybe they mean to try to look like it's like, oh, it's so easy. But it certainly gives the appearance of like, oh, wow, what I'm doing right now is wrong because everyone else has just figured it out and I don't know what I'm doing. So when people don't talk about how hard it is, it makes you second guess yourself. And like every decision you're making,
right.
is worth it. Should it be this hard? And why am I not unable to? And the truth is they're struggling probably just as much as you are. Maybe there are people that don't struggle. I would love to meet those people that don't struggle, but it's really hard. And even when you get to be a product company, there's a whole new set of issues. It's like, I was talking to somebody. I was at Bacon Biz, Amy Hoy's conference, and they said something about consulting. And I told them, I miss consulting sometimes because there's so much of a direct correlation between time and money, which is nice, but it's nice to be able to work a whole bunch of hours and get paid a whole bunch of money too. Mm-hmm. Right? When you have a product company, you work a whole bunch and sometimes it doesn't affect revenue. And after a while, gets kind of like demoralizing or it doesn't make you very motivated to work, certainly. But the grass is always greener. When you get there, it's really not. It's just a new shade of green. It's just there's just new problems and that sort of thing.
Well, there's kind of that perception that everyone else has it figured out and knows what they're doing. And then when they do something that works, they're like, oh yeah, I did this and I knew from I just had a gut feeling. And it's just, it makes you second guess yourself a lot when really I think everyone's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And, none of us, I'm not going to say, I didn't, I went to school, I was an art major. I didn't go to school for hiring customer support and how to run how to do support. And so we did years ago, we did a large redesign of LessAccounting and we just deployed it. I was like, oh yeah, we're done. It took us weeks to QA this thing and we're done. We deployed it. And people were like, why didn't you tell us you're deploying this new version? It's all new design. And where are the help videos? And we're like, oh shit, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Hey, that's a whole new thing because you're so worried about the product. So they're like, there's no guide. Well, maybe there's not. There's no. I've never seen a guide to running your own tech startup and make sure you hire customer support this way. And so it's you're just making it up as you go. And people they have this air about them, like they know they're so confident. It makes people. I think maybe I'm normal. I'm very self-doubting, confident but self-doubting, or second guessing myself, and it makes people like me think I don't have it together and I'm not as good as they are because they're so cool and so. Put together, right? Maybe that's it.
So you recently wrote about the guilt that comes with working too much, and trying to find that work-life balance and how that doesn't actually exist. I'd love it if you could expand a bit on that idea.
Yeah. So when we started the company, when Steven, my business partner, and I started the company in 2007, I think his third child had just been born, and my first child was just born. And it was very easy to and even the first few years, when the babies are new, it distracts the wife. And I'm like, I'll just work tonight because the baby's not going to remember me working real late. But when now my kids are 7 and 5, and they don't let me get away with working really late. They're like, hey, what's up? I mean, you're working late and I want to play. Let's go outside and play. And so then it gets harder. It's not even me, it's them harassing me. But there really isn't a balance. There's always sort of it happens. It kind of almost I have to recalibrate my brain because I think it's normal. I enjoy what I do, and so you slowly start working a little bit more, a little later here, and before you know it, you're working 50 hours, 60 hours a week, which is fine to do in spurts, but it's not good to do long periods of time. And so, for me, right now, it's beautiful in Florida. Yesterday, I was like, fuck this. I'm going sailing. And so my son and I, at 11:30, we started sailing. We sailed until 4 o'clock that afternoon. Because it's just too nice. Everything can wait. Nothing's really that important. Nothing's going to blow up. I have a couple of employees that, if the server goes down, don't call me. You get it back up. That's not my job. Not that ever happens. Emails can wait. I basically, right now, Steve and I take 1 week off a month, just don't work. And then I work from about 6:30 every day to about 3:30. But that hasn't always been the case. That's sort of been, I've kind of, over the years, trimmed back things and taken on less and less projects. And now I work, about 35 hours a week. And whatever I don't get done, it's not important. Actually, I use a thing called followup.cc, and a lot of emails, that sounds great, but I'm gonna send that to follow-up CC and kick it back to me in 2 weeks and see if it's still important in 2 weeks. When the people give me requests for things like, hey, can you do this thing for me? I'll just delete their email. If they don't reply back and say, hey, did you get my email about that thing I really need? Then I'll do what they need. But I put the onus back on them to see how important it is. Work-life balance doesn't ever happen. You always feel like you're guilting one party or the other. Either work is getting slighted or family. But it's just, at the end of the day, the business is not that important. It's important, but it's not more important than my family. And my kids are, like I said, 5 and 7. And in a couple of years, they're going to think I'm not very cool. Right now, they're really cool.
Yeah.
And so they're just not, business is not that important. And maybe in a few years I will crank more hours back into it. But with a product business, there's no real correlation between time and money. It's quality of time. And for me, since I'm not, my work is fairly creative. It's marketing and it's onboarding and UI and a little bit of helping customer support reword things. It's creativity. And so if I work 60 hours, those extra hours I'm working aren't necessarily better hours. They're actually turning other hours to unproductive hours. I get my best ideas when I'm mowing my grass. When it's just a hum of a lawnmower and my thoughts. Yeah. And I'll just start going through things. What if we did this? What if we did some crazy idea? What if we gave away this thing? And that's when the ideas come, is when I let my mind just kind of relax and just let the blood and the oxygen flow in it. So we worked a lot of hours for a lot of years. I don't know if those hours really paid off that much. Do
you think you could have launched again at 35 hours a week?
I think we would have launched with less features. Lean Startup wasn't around.
Okay.
And all that customer development wasn't around in 2007. So launching a tiny product, the only people that were ever mentioning that was 37 Signals. And so it felt kind of crazy. What we wouldn't have done if I would have kept working going back and not working many hours, it would have not given us the ability to create a very large web consultancy, which became a gigantic distraction from the products and other things. You know, you can always look back and look for the silver lining, but I think it would have been good or fine if we looking back, if we would have done the same thing, like 35 hours a week, because we wasted a whole lot of time building. We had like 20 employees at one time building web apps for people. So we had like a 20-person web app company and a product company going, and then we started throwing events. Like that's just a recipe to work 70 hours a week, right? And so if we hadn't had that ability to, you know, a snail will grow to the size of its shell, right? Mm-hmm. So if you allow work to be 80 hours, work will find a way. You know, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, life will find a way. Work will find a way to expand to that time. You will fill that time up.
Yeah. Well, so what at the beginning, if you were going to do it again, what kind of things would you have cut out to get down to that 35?
I wouldn't have hired anyone to, you know, because we did a consultancy to bootstrap the product.
Okay.
And the consultancy did over like 1.6 million for a couple of years. And I would have not taken those big projects. I would have looked for projects that allowed me to work 20 hours a week on your project and 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week on my own stuff. But it was all about, for our consultants, how much money can we get from this thing? Okay. How big of clients can we get? How much of an hourly rate can we get? And how many of these clients can we do? I think that was a mistake. That was a huge distraction. It was two things to promote. It was too much. And we would have focused more on optimizing our time to allow for product. Kind of going back, when we're building the consultancy, one of the reasons why we trimmed the consultancy down instead of keeping it as its own separate company was I didn't like my job. I like designing things and coming up with ideas and trying to be creative. And it turned out when we had employees that were building web apps, I was a salesperson and a manager, and that was my job. And I did not like that job. And so now I'm more focused on building the job that I want. I don't think we're selling LessAccounting anytime in the next, years. We're not retiring some island anytime soon. And so what job do I want to have for the next 30 years? Or maybe not 30. Am I 30? Yeah, so 20 years or 15 years. What job do I want to have? And do I want to be doing onboarding for LessAccounting for the next 15 years? Yeah, that sounds okay. Do I want to be writing blog posts about unpaid expenses and unpaid invoices? No way. I hate that. That's all right, but I don't want to do that for 15 years. What I do want to do is like fun things, right? Like, so it kind of started last year when all the health insurance, and this is kind of a bad example, but the health insurance stuff came around, like the big Obamacare. Nobody knew anything about health insurance. I didn't know anything. So I was like, I'm going to take 2 months and just learn about health insurance for small businesses and write a whole bunch of content about it. So I took 2 months and interviewed people and gathered this content and wrote it and designed it and launched it. And people liked it and they shared it and it brought traffic and we ran retargeting ads off of it and it worked pretty well. And so I've always liked it took me a while to kind of like writing and content writing, but my new sort of job I want to be is creating content that I want to write and I want to share. So I build go-karts for fun with my kids, and I'm going to build a rum still, like literally to distill rum. The company's going to pay for it. I'm going to build a still. I'm going to learn how to make rum. I'm going to interview people, go over recipes and test it, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to make rum. And then I'm going to blog about it. And it might be LessAccounting/make rum. And so I kind of had the idea from MailChimp. MailChimp puts out all these little silly sort of, they don't seem like marketing you. They mail these knitted hats that have the MailChimp monkey on them, and they do shirts, and they have a billboard, just the MailChimp logo, and they did a video the other day of slow-mo of paint dripping across the MailChimp logo, and they do like an iPad game that makes no sense, nothing related to email, right? But it's always something fun and creative and interesting, and people look at it and share it and think it's fun, and then you remember MailChimp. It's kind of staying top of mind, I guess. And so going forward the next year, I'm going to spend time just doing things and talking about it. Things I want, like, so I built a backyard workspace. It's basically a 220 square foot office space in my backyard. I built that over the summer, mostly by me, about 80% by me. And I'm going to write a whole concept module. I'm writing it right now, actually, about how to build a backyard office. Like, Where do you go to get plans? Where do you go to get permits? What things do you need? What should you not do? What should you not try? Why do this roof versus that roof? And basically how to build a backyard office. We're going to launch that content module. And my thought is people will share it and talk about it. And hopefully when they need bookkeeping software, they'll remember LessAccounting. That's my zany idea.
Yeah. Do you guys measure those, like the success of that? Or do you guys kind of let it flow? And how does that work when you're doing these kind of out of the box content?
Yeah.
Pieces?
We obviously have Google Analytics, and I can see people that sign up, and we run retargeting ads off of certain URLs and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, if someone were to say, prove to me, I would say most of the proof is in my gut, right? I think people try to make business very scientific, and I don't know if I really want to run a scientific business, or I can, or if I want to have that. I don't even know if I want that job, right? It's kind of like even if they kind of work less effective, like this is the job that I want. I don't really want a job where I'm having to let's dig into Google Analytics a little bit more and find, all our goals are set up and we track those, but it's not something I, worry about constantly. It's really, would this be fun? Is this something I want to do? Will people share it? Will people get value out of it? Okay, let's do it.
Okay, yeah.
And it's less scientific and just more going with the gut, which is not what people want to hear. They want to hear 10 ways to optimize your funnel. That's what sells blog posts and sells ebooks, not come up with a really good idea that you think is cool. Don't be a pussy about it, even though people are telling you it's a stupid idea, and put it out. If we're building a job that we hate, just go get a regular job.
It's a hell of a lot easier. Yeah.
Right. It's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of over, I really don't want to read any more growth hacker blog posts, and I'm just kind of over all that kind of stuff too. Everyone's got this special Kool-Aid magic for the day. I don't think they really do. And the reality is even A/B testing in our industry is flawed because we're setting up customers that should be around for 3 years, and you can't A/B test that. You can only A/B test the initial sort of surge or data. You can't test to see they're around 3 years. So you can't make business scientific. You have to kind of go with your gut. Our kind of gauge for what do you think works is do we think this is cool? We gave away a whole bunch of shirts a few weeks ago, and I just thought the design was kind of cool, and it cost us a whole ton of money. So I was like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Sure, we'll give away some shirts. That's basically the conversation my business partner and I have. Oh, is this going to make us go broke? No. Oh, okay. Is it kind of cool? Yeah.
Let's try it. Right.
That's kind of it.
So where can we keep up with you online?
Yeah, the best place is probably Twitter, which is / or @ or whatever. Do you have to say @ anymore? Just Twitter @ Allan Branch, or the blog on LessAccounting.com, LessAccounting.com/blog. I'm around. I creep in the corners and the
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Rocketship podcast. If you enjoyed it, we have tons of other awesome episodes on our website. Check them out, rocketship.fm.
And while you're there, make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We're twice monthly. We send out actionable advice for entrepreneurs and exclusive links to AMAs with our guests. That's rocketship.fm. Sign up today.
Hey, my name is Lovan Rumpf, and I've been working my ass off as a celebrity stylist by day and a podcast host by night. At the Low Life Podcast, it's all about keeping it real. We're talking fashion, beauty, to religion, sex, drugs, mental health. I mean, there's no topic off limits here, and vulnerability is mandatory. You can find my podcast, The Low Life, that's L-O, no W, everywhere and anywhere you listen to your podcasts. New episodes are out every Thursday. We'll see you then.
It's pretty eerie to know you're in a place that no human's ever been before.
This is Armchair Explorer, where the world's greatest adventurers tell their best stories from the road.
And 4 of us were swept down the side of the mountain, and then I knew there was no way out of this thing.
From the heart-pounding to the inspiring and the downright insane. Find Armchair Explorer, a part of APT Podcast Studios, wherever you get your podcasts.
Go and find what it is in the world that matches that wildness in yourself.